It's time for From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine with Trey, a golf podcast for those who love golf, struggle with golf, and just like to enjoy the outdoors and fellowship with friends, all while chasing a ball around, trying to put it in a 4 1/4 inch diameter hole. From the Shortgrass is presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine, and brought to you by Stevens Incorporated, an independent financial services firm with the freedom to focus on what matters most. By Beechwood Hospitality, we partner with you to deliver high-yield results by managing, developing, and investing in top-quality hospitality assets. And now, from the Shortgrass, here's your host, Trey.
Welcome to another edition of From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. I am your host, Trey. If this is your first time listening to From the Shortgrass, thank you. If you're a long-time listener, thank you as well. If you're a long-time listener, way back in the very infancy of From the Shortgrass, we had Adam Carney on almost every episode with a rules segment. He was our rules guru, if you will. I decided that it's time to sit down with him for a couple of full episodes of From the Shortgrass so that you can learn more about Adam's trek to becoming a PGA professional with an emphasis on the rules of golf and find out some of the places he's gone to officiate golf tournaments. Hey, remember, UAMS Ortho Now is now open at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. If you have an orthopedic injury, walk in and see the best in orthopedic care. No appointment is necessary. Call 501-686-TOSH. That's 501-686-8674 for more information. We're back with Adam Carney after this. Stay with us.
The future is not about a bond reaching maturity. The future is what my grandfather worked for. It's what my father carried on. It's my responsibility today. The future is my son's tomorrow. At the Stevens Private Client Group, we believe that our strength builds success, not only for us, but for our clients. Stevens, member NYSE, SIPC.
From Central Arkansas to South Arkansas to Northeast Arkansas, across the state to Northwest Arkansas, you will find a Beechwood hospitality property. From the Haywood in El Dorado to the Hilton Garden in Jonesboro to the Doubletree in Bentonville and the Staybridge Suites just south of Baumwalker Stadium, Beechwood Hospitality has a room for you. Beechwood Hospitality is the leader in hotel property management in the state. Make sure you find a Beechwood Hospitality hotel for your next overnight stay.
This is Justin Acree with some exciting news. UAMS Ortho Now is now open at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. If you have an orthopedic injury, sports, work, or anything else, walk in and get the best in orthopedic care. No appointment needed. Ortho Now is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon. Conveniently located at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. For more information, call 501-686-TOSH. That's 501-686-8674.
Welcome back to this edition of From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. I am your host, Trey. I met Adam Carney for the very first time up at Big Creek in Mountain Home when he was the head golf professional there. I was playing in an ASGA designated tournament over a weekend and met Adam Carney. One thing I remembered about Adam, his golf pro shop was spectacular. The other thing, he knew the rules of golf. And if you didn't think he did, all you had to do was look at his notice to competitors on the first tee. It was outline, detail-oriented, and it was spectacular. The course was always marked, and if you ever had a question, all you had to do was call him, and he would have an answer for you. Sometimes you might not like it. Sometimes you got relief from a situation where you didn't think maybe it was possible that you would get relief. Adam knows the rules of golf, and you're going to find out more about Adam Carney right now. On the tee, Adam Carney.
Adam, thanks for joining me on From the Shortgrass. This is going to be a little bit different because in the very beginning, you were my rules expert. You're still a rules expert on the game of golf. But this episode is not going to specifically have a rules segment. It's going to be about your trek with golf and how you got started. So when did you first pick up a golf club?
Golly, I think I was about 5 years old. I was born just outside Detroit. In
You were born
in Birmingham, Michigan, believe it or not.
Wow.
And
how did you get the Southern accent?
It's just one of those things. I've lived in the South the majority of my life, and I only lived in Michigan until I was about 8 years old. But my dad was with Ford, and we were members at Oakland Hills.
Oh wow!
And I started in the junior program when I was 5 years old. I was a pool rat, just like every other country club kid. But Dad got me into the junior program. My grandfather was an avid golfer, not a great golfer, but an avid golfer, and so was my grandmother. And they bought me clubs, and from about age 5 to 8, the clubs were used as hockey sticks sometimes they're for hitting golf balls. But, when I moved down to Southern Indiana, I just got eaten up with it. And I can remember from age 10 to 18, there were probably 10 days in those, 8 summers where I wasn't at the golf course all day. Mom and Dad dropped me off 7 in the morning, pick me up at dark, play all day, practice all day, work in the bag room, pick the range, whatever, at the country club. And the golf professional at Forest Hills was a gentleman named Tom Geit. And the golf professional at the public golf course where the high school team played, and I played city juniors and stuff out there, was a gentleman named Ron DeMayo. And those two guys were my idols. I think, every boy grows up idolizing his father, hopefully. And I did too. But my dad wasn't a good golfer. He wasn't a good athlete. And, I wanted what I saw from Tom and Ron. And obviously I wanted to play first, but I always knew that if I didn't make it as a player, that my career was going to be as a PGA golf professional. And, I can remember, the priest at the church, I revered him, and I held golf professionals in that same light. And so, I knew at a young age what I was going to do. And just grew up playing a lot of golf, junior stuff, and then, amateur stuff in collegiate golf, and graduated, tried to play for a couple of years down in Florida on the mini tours. The Nike tour was just getting going at that time. Ben Hogan tour had started, but it wasn't a really substantial tour like it is now. You couldn't make much money out there. Right. And
there wasn't much money at all.
No, I mean, when you look at inflation and tournament prizes, they don't go hand in hand, because they jump dramatically in '97 when Tiger wins the Masters, and now they're astronomical. But I mean, you can make a decent living playing Korn Ferry Tour right now as a player, but you're not going to be out there very long, because to make a decent living, you're going to get a PGA Tour card. You can't caddy out there and make any money. Mm-mm. But down in Florida, Goosey Space Coast Tour and some of those tours. You had to finish top 10 to make significant money, but, you really made more money, I think, down there than you could at that time playing what was Ben Hogan Tour and just moving into Nike Tour. And it didn't matter. I wasn't good enough to play on any of them. So, I decided, hey, it's time. I talked to my dad, and he said, hey, it's time, and let's get in the golf business and chase your dreams. And that's what I did. And when I did, I jumped in with both feet, and I just put my nose to the grindstone, which, I never did in school. I did with golf playing, but I just kind of transferred that energy I had from practicing and playing into being a golf professional.
So you're on the high school golf team, and then you go and play collegiately?
I did. Where? I played at Ball State University in Indiana.
Okay. And what was that like?
Small fish in a big pond. Ball State was an extremely good Division I program. Qualified for NCAAs almost every year. I went, from being a high school player in Indiana to, as one of the better players in the state, certainly the best in southeastern Indiana where I lived, to, being on a team with like 16 guys and, guys that had played big time D1 and maybe transferred to Ball State, or guys that were 4-time high school all-state players in Indiana or whatever. And, and I'm teeing it up against Ohio State playing Chris Smith and Gary Nicholas. And, it was kind of tough, Yeah. It was an adjustment period. And at times I did okay, at other times I didn't. But, I didn't have a great college career by any stretch of the imagination, but I still learned a lot and decided I wanted to play, gave that a shot. And then, I think my dad said, "Hey, you're good, but you ain't that good. So
Right.
why don't you learn how to fold a sweater?" And I did. So
Why don't you learn how to fold a sweater?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Reality hits.
It did.
So you learned how to fold a sweater, but you also learned some other things as well. When did you get your PGA status, and then when did you become a Class A PGA professional?
Yeah, so 93, I got into the apprentice program. Got my Class A in 95, and then Master Professional status in 2005. As PGA golf professionals, I think it's said a lot that we wear so many hats. You look at the things that we do in the golf shop. I mean, we're like cruise directors, right? We're there to run tournaments, to merchandise, to teach, to play golf, to do club repair, to manage the business of the golf operation. And I think I got some good advice when I was young. It said, hey, specialize in one or two areas that, you can say, hey, you're one of the best at this or that. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to do that. And the first was rules. The head golf professional I worked for when I was an apprentice, now they call it associate, but was a rules guru. He was just into rules bigger than life, and it inspired me. And so I started working, when I got my Class A in 95 on master professional stuff with rules, which it's a 10-year program. You can't become a master professional until you've been a member for 10 years. So I started working on that, and I thought, okay, rules and tournament ops is going to be one of mine, and merchandising just happened to become the second one, really out of necessity. I got my first head professional's job, and my assistant's job didn't prepare me for the merchandising aspect. I mean, I was at a resort in East Tennessee, private resort, if you will, that had 5 golf courses, and we had one buyer, and they would send merchandise down there, and all I had to do was put it on a hanger or put it on a shelf. That was it. Didn't get into the business side of it at all. And my first job, I had to own the golf shop, and so the first year I just failed miserably, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I learned right away how to run a business because I had to get out of debt, and I realized also that was going to be a really good revenue source for me going forward. And for some reason, my whole career, I owned the shop wherever I was, and which was extremely rare now. And I just got better and better at it because it was my source of income. And so, yeah, merchandising and rules tournament ops became kind of my 2 areas that I was an expert in, and it worked well.
Yeah, I would say so, because always going to your golf shops, I knew that I would have top-of-the-line quality. Playing in tournaments, and when you get that golf shop credit,
yeah,
you knew when Adam Carney was running a tournament, you were going to get some of the best apparel or whatever it be in the golf shop.
Yeah, we tried to do that, and we weren't always successful. No one is, but it was just one of those things. I mean, you had trends in the industry, whether it be an apparel line or several apparel lines, equipment, whatever. So your Titleist golf balls, you got to have those in the shop, right? But then you go to that next level where you're going to the show and you're going back in the corners of the PGA show and find, oh, that's a really cool head cover company and they can do some really neat stuff. And, you might be one of 10 people that place an order at the show, but you're going to be the only one in Arkansas or whatever. And, we just came up with new and inventive ideas in the golf shop, people, how they could spend their shop credit. And, it turned into, getting a reputation of being a good merchandiser for my merchandise selection. And it was fun. It was how I made a living. And I knew if I wanted to make a living, I better be good at it.
The other thing too, Adam, is the fact that your relationship with Nike was big because Tiger Woods was big.
Yep.
And if you had Nike in your golf shop, people thought Nike, Tiger Woods, okay, maybe I can play like him.
there was some aspect to that. I had a great relationship with Nike for 13 years and still have with several people that are still at Nike. Obviously, there was a big change in 2015 when they stopped making equipment and golf balls. Kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I just signed a new 3-year deal with them. And the nice thing is I could play whatever I want for 3 years, and they still had to honor that 3-year contract and pay me out. But, Nike was really cool. It gave me so much insight into how an equipment manufacturer works. I mean, we were integrally involved in footwear design and testing, equipment design and testing, golf ball design and testing, to where, I'd be in Portland once or twice, or Beaverton once or twice on campus a year, or I'd be in Fort Worth at the R&D facility called the Oven once or twice a year testing equipment. And definitely the Tiger aspect helped. Sometimes it didn't, but sometimes it did. And beyond that, it was really more the sense that the equipment and the apparel and footwear that I was bringing into my golf shop, I had a hand in designing or testing or giving feedback on. Really not designing. That's probably an unfair word to say, but just kind of, I guess, saying, yes, this works. This is great. This can do really well.
I've tried it.
Yeah. And so it was that kind of all access pass that Nike gave those of us that were fortunate enough to be on the Swoosh Elite staff for those years, the opportunity to be really, really involved. And what's more important with that relationship was Nike actually listened to us. A lot of companies will have a national advisory staff, but really the company wants those golf professionals to smile and say, I love this brand, whatever. And Nike wasn't that way. Nike was really, hey, come in, give us your feedback. What do you think about this? Will this sell? Is this, will your members like this? What will people in Arkansas think about this? Maybe it was a high top golf shoe or something like that. Where in Arkansas we kind of go, not real sure about that. But, today, who knows?
All over.
It's all over. I watch apparel and footwear design changes over the last 10 years and go, wow, I never would have thought 10 years ago we'd be wearing that stuff. But yeah, it was a really special relationship. It was about people at Nike. Kim Backus, our sales rep here in Arkansas at the time, Kyle Freeman, who was the head of sports marketing with Nike, all the way up to Cindy Davis, who was president. I knew all of them. They knew me. We had conversations. They'd call me, ask me my opinion on stuff, and they made you feel special, not because you just put their stuff in your shop, but they valued your opinion. So. And I don't think I ever had another relationship with any other manufacturer like I did with Nike. But I was truly blessed to have it. And it helped me a lot to be a better merchandiser because I could tell their story to the members or whoever.
A lot of different aspects go into the life of a PGA professional, and it could be teaching, rules, merchandising, like you said, and dealing with your members. How did you get to Arkansas to deal with your first group of members?
I took a job in Branson, Missouri, at a resort, and it was a timeshare resort. Obviously, I didn't sell timeshare, but I was on the operations side, and they had some financial issues with the SEC. That's the Securities and Exchange Commission, not the Southeastern
league
Conference. Yeah. They had some issues there, and they had to make some drastic cuts. And I was one of the casualties, which wasn't anything personal, it was business. And I kind of sat around for 6 months, kind of going, what am I going to do? I'm talking to different places, and I got a call from Big Creek in Mountain Home, and went down there and met with Lang Zimmerman and the board and just love the facility. I mean, it's incredible. And, I'm a small town guy. I'm not, Jonesboro is about 80,000 people. It's by far the largest city I've lived in my life. And, I just loved Mountain Home, and, I loved the club, and we did some great things there, and I stayed there. And then, in 2007, I won the National Merchandiser Award, and with that came, some recruitment for some other jobs. And
it's hard to win a Merchandiser Award at a small place like Mountain Home, though.
It is. I mean, the criteria for winning that, there are a lot of things that are kind of what I call the great equalizer, right? So you look at things like dollars per round. So,
sure.
How many dollars of merchandise are you selling in your shop versus the number of rounds, and then you take that to get your DPR, your dollar per round. And so a lot of the bigger clubs, they may be doing $12, $15, which is great, but they're doing $1 million in gross sales, but based on their rounds or whatever else. But at Big Creek, we were $22, $23 per round, which
how did you do that? I mean, when someone comes up, plays around and goes, hey, do you need some balls? Do you need a glove? What can I help you out with?
I think some of it was gifted to me because right after I came, Golf Digest gave us the 5 stars and the best new public, not the best new public. I think we were top 10 best new public golf courses in the United States. And so that brought, with the club being kind of semi-private, if you will, that brought a lot of people into Mountain Home wanting to play that golf course. And of course, when you go play a golf course that's in Golf Digest, you got to have a shirt, whatever, logo golf balls, sold a ton of them. So that helped a lot. But also, I think it was just the experience that I garnered for 7 years as a head golf professional in my golf shops to get to the point where, I knew how to do a golf shop where the merchandise selection was, something that everybody was going to want, and there was a wide selection. I'd gotten fairly good at visual merchandising where, you come into the golf shop, I'm not going to mention any courses or shops, but you can go into some shops and you just kind of like, everything's just kind of thrown in there. It's kind of a mess, and you just kind of dig through and find what you want. And you go to other shops and you feel like you're walking into a really nice boutique type shop. And that was what I tried to do, and get people into the shop and want to look around. I mean, maybe they weren't looking at merchandise. They were looking at a 120-year-old set of golf clubs that I had on a display, whatever, but whatever it took to get them in there. So, I was really fortunate, but to win that award, I never thought I'd win. In fact, I almost didn't even send in the awards nomination. I mean, it was, I can't remember about 100 pages, something like that. And it took me the better part of 2 months to complete, but certainly glad I did. It turned into a pretty nice thing. And, get your name up there with some of the icons in the PGA that have won that award. I mean, you figure there's 30,000 golf professionals in the United States, and only 3 a year get to win Merchandiser of the Year. So it was definitely something for me that, I guess it kind of defined my career to some extent, but it also gave me a lot of confidence and also gave me more access. That's when I signed my deal with Nike. So.
The other thing, too, that I think defines your career is the master professional with an emphasis in the rules of golf. Obviously, difficult to achieve. You were able to do that, and you've got to officiate at some pretty big tournaments, including PGA majors.
I did. Now the PGA Championship, I was not a full-fledged member of the rules committee. I was there, I guess you'd call it observer, but I was also there to help as well. But because I had really just gotten my master professional certification in 2005, and then that's the first year I was at Baltusrol that year. So. But it took me a lot of places. It took me, USGA stuff, national junior stuff. I've been invited to be a rules official at all kinds of stuff. And, you do the best you can. You're still working as a PGA golf professional, so you can't, take 12 weeks a year and go work these events. But, I had the opportunity to do that and I guess apply my skills in different venues. And it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the challenge of setting up a golf course, for a national 4-day event. I enjoyed, applying the rules of golf and being out there and involved. And it was a lot of fun. And it, I always wished I'd been playing on the PGA Tour just like you and everybody else. But the reality of the situation was I wasn't going to make it there. But this gave me access and gave me a position where, hey, I could still be, around that kind of thing. And I really enjoyed that.
When you went to some of these courses and helped set them up for these championships, did you ever think, man, can I play it? Did you get to play them?
I could have. I mean, some of them, yes. Well, take Baltusrol, for example. Doug Steffen was the director of golf at Baltusrol at that time. And 2 years later, he won the private award the year I won the public. So we spent a lot of time together, in preparation for the award ceremony, and then we're on the committee for selecting next year's award winner. So we became really good friends. So I would take members from here to Scotland once a year. Well, we'd stop over in New Jersey and play at Baltusrol, for a couple days, and then catch a red eye over to the UK. And Doug, so I did get to play both golf courses at Baltusrol. Of course, Southern Hills was in 2007. I was there. Mm-hmm. I've played there. And then 2008, ironically, when I was up there for the selection of the next year's Merchandisers of the Year, it was at Oakland Hills, where I'd played this was my first round of golf.
I know.
Didn't recognize it, but
changed a little bit.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that was I wasn't there for rules committee, but in 2005, Phil Mickelson won at Baltusrol, and he and Doug became really good friends leading up to that. Doug would have him in, and he played Baltusrol, throughout the year, getting ready for the PGA. So I got up there, and Doug's like, we met for dinner, and he said, "Hey, you got to get to bed earlier. I got a surprise for you in the morning." And we got up that next morning at 6, went over to Oakland Hills, and Phil's right there, brought us inside the ropes, and we walked 18 holes with Phil while he's playing a practice round. It was Doug and me and Phil and Bones. And
what was that like?
It was really cool. I got some pretty neat insight into Phil, and of course, he and I are the same age, so we played some junior stuff against each other way back when.
Did you ever beat him?
No, I'm sure I didn't. I didn't pay close enough. I mean, that guy was so good. I mean, he was just unreal. But yeah, I mean, we'd talk about kind of the old days, some of the guys we knew, and yeah, he was just kind of, he was open. It was funny. In 2008, he said he was thinking going to retire within the next 2 years. And he said, unless golf gets in the Olympics, because I worked hard on that. And I told Bones that I'd stay around if it got in. So, as we know, he never did retire.
No.
And still playing to this day. So, but it was great, watching him hit the shots that he hit. Just,
He has said that this could be his last U.S. Open this week.
Yeah, and it's obviously probably because he doesn't have an exemption to get in beyond this year.
Right.
He'd have to get a special invitation, and playing live is not going to give him any way to get on there. So,
and that's the one major he has not won.
That is correct. That's the one he's missing.
Been so close.
Oh gosh, I mean, many times, right?
Yeah.
I still remember. God, where was it? Wasn't he there when Goosen won, and he fired it left on 18, almost out of bounds.
Pulled it left, hit one of the merchandise tents or one of the tents.
Yeah.
And made double.
Yeah.
On the 18th hole.
Yeah.
To lose by 1, I believe.
Yeah. I think that's right. So, I mean, look, he's one of the top 10 greatest players of all time, in my opinion. It's just he had the misfortune of coming to the PGA Tour and to golf when Tiger Woods came. He's 5 years ahead of Tiger, and he had to play week in, week out against a guy that won 15 majors. I mean, what do you do? If Tiger hadn't been around, I think Phil would have won 15 majors.
He could have.
Yeah.
He very well could have.
Yeah.
We are talking with Adam Carney. We're going to pause with him for now in this episode, but we're going to come back next week with more of Adam Carney, and we're going to really dive into some rules, scenarios, and some of the crazy rules situations that you've been a part of.
Sounds great.
I can't wait to hear some of these.
The next time you travel to El Dorado and need overnight accommodations, the Haywood Hotel is where you need to stay. The Haywood El Dorado Tapestry Collection by Hilton is a great place to stay if you're in South Arkansas listening to live music or playing the challenging Mystic Creek Golf Club. Take time and relax in their bar for a drink before going out on the town for dinner. The Haywood, 210 South Washington, right in the heart of downtown El Dorado. Search the Haywood El Dorado on the web or call 800-293-0718 for reservations. The Haywood, a Beechwood hospitality property.
This is Justin Acree with some exciting news. UAMS Ortho Now is now open at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. If you have an orthopedic injury, sports, work, or anything else, walk in and get the best in orthopedic care. No appointment needed. Ortho Now is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon. Conveniently located at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. For more information, call 501-686-TOSH. That's 501-686-8674.
Well, that will do it for this episode of From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Don't forget the U.S. Open, Oakmont in Pittsburgh. Who wins? We'll have a recap of it in our next episode. Also, part 2 of my sit-down with Adam Carney. In our next episode, we're going to dive more into the rules of golf and how sometimes some scenarios that he's come up against and how a situation might help you or it might not help you. I think you're going to enjoy it. Before we go, I want to thank Matthew Allen and Blair Allen, Beechwood Hospitality Group. They know how to manage hotel properties. If you need an overnight place to stay, make sure you're staying in a Beechwood hospitality property. easy. Matthew Allen and Blair Allen. The Allen brothers, they get it done. Remember, when you find your ball mark on the green, fix it and a couple of more. And I hope to see you sometime soon from the short grass.
You have been listening to From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine, a weekly podcast dedicated to the game of golf. This has been a presentation of the Buzz Radio Network in association with Majestic Cubby Productions.